The most powerful message you send is the one that requires no sound. It's a fundamental truth of how we all interact, right? A silent broadcast that decides who has influence and who has status long before anyone says a single word. Now, this is a language we all get on an instinctive level. It's basically written into our DNA, but it's a language very, very few of us ever learn to speak on purpose. Just let that sink in for a second. We live in a world that's obsessed with what's on your resume, your slide decks, your arguments, your data. But the final call on your authority, that might be made based on the angle of your shoulders or how much space you're taking up with your feet. See, this isn't about what you know. It's about what your body projects. We are about to pull back the curtain on this ancient system, and you're going to see how a simple physical posture can be a master key to influence, one that bypasses logic and even expertise itself. So think of this as a strategic briefing. First up, we're going to uncover the silent command. Then we'll look at the invisible barrier that it creates for so many people. After that, we'll deconstruct the mechanics of power and see exactly how it works by hijacking the brain. And most importantly, we'll get into the strategic intervention that you can actually use to master this whole thing, which leads us to the final insight that's going to completely redefine how you look at every single human interaction. Okay, so operating just beneath our conscious awareness, there's this ancient, nonverbal system of influence. We're not talking about modern management theory or some charisma workshop here. We're talking about evolutionary wiring. It's a primal code that our brains use to quickly sort us into social hierarchies. It's a system that prioritizes physical signals over what you actually say to figure out in a split second who's going to lead and who's going to follow. And this is the core paradox of this entire system. You can literally be the most qualified person in the room, with the most brilliant idea, with the most compelling data, but if your body is sending signals of submission, your message might not even be heard. Think of your nonverbal cues as the gatekeeper to your verbal content. This is the moment control shifts, when that nonverbal signal overrules everything you're saying. This silent command can grant or deny you permission to influence the group, and it sets up a pecking order with just shocking speed and efficiency. So what happens when you're on the wrong side of this silent transaction, day in and day out? Well, you run into an invisible barrier. It's that frustrating, almost maddening feeling of knowing you're competent, you have the answer, but you're constantly being overlooked or talked over. It's a pattern that people feel, but they often can't quite put their finger on why it's happening, which leads to a ton of confusion and self-doubt. They're asking themselves, why won't they listen to me? And they never realize the answer is being broadcast by their own body. There's actually a formal name for this whole thing, dominance signaling theory. And what it tells us is that this isn't personal, it's procedural. The people around you aren't consciously choosing to ignore you. Their brains are automatically responding to your low power posture, and it's triggering these ancient deference rituals that are hardwired in us for social survival. They're responding to the signal, not the person. And that creates a really painful psychological toll for the ones sending those signals, often without even realizing it. And the consequences of this? They're severe. It usually starts with just feeling constantly ignored or undervalued. That slowly chips away at your confidence, and it can spiral into chronic social anxiety, where every single interaction just feels risky. Over time, this can lead to what's called learned helplessness, a really dangerous psychological state where you start to believe that nothing you do will ever change the outcome. This is where the trap closes. You get stuck in this feedback loop where you get negative social responses even though you're perfectly competent, which then just reinforces the very posture that started the whole cycle in the first place. All right, so let's break down the engine that's driving this whole dynamic. How does it actually work on a mechanical level? Well, it's not complicated. In fact, its power is in its simplicity. It's all rooted in our evolutionary need to figure out who's in charge quickly and efficiently, without having to fight it out all the time. The entire system is built on a simple physical binary that every human brain understands instantly. So what's really interesting here is how it all boils down to one core principle: expansion versus contraction. High power poses are all about opening up, taking up space, creating symmetry. Think broad shoulders, hands on your hips, feet planted wide. Here's the leverage point. This body language signals that you control resources and you have a low fear of confrontation. And on the flip side, low power poses are all about contraction, making yourself smaller, crossing your limbs, closing off your torso. It's a physical signal of submission, basically saying, I want to avoid any threat. But get this, it's not just an external signal, it's an internal one too. When you physically assume a high power pose, you kick off this powerful self-reinforcing feedback loop. The pose itself actually triggers a real, measurable hormonal shift inside your body. This chemical change literally makes you feel more confident, which then makes you project more confidence. And it's that authentic projection of confidence that the group is hardwired to read and then grant deference to. The pose creates the feeling, which in turn creates the social reality. And this chart right here really shows you the internal engine of power. Studies have found that holding a high-power pose for just a couple of minutes increases your testosterone. That's the hormone we associate with confidence and risk-taking. And at the same time, it decreases cortisol, which is the body's main stress hormone. So you are literally changing your body's chemistry to be more assertive and less stressed out. And yeah, low-power poses do the exact opposite, getting you ready biochemically for retreat and submission. The reason this whole system is so incredibly effective and so hard to even notice is all about speed. These physical signals are processed by the primitive emotional parts of our brain way faster than our conscious, logical thought can keep up. In any social situation, the brain's number one goal is to reduce ambiguity and establish some certainty. An expansive posture gives a clear, unambiguous signal of status. It's a shortcut that sets up the pecking order in an instant, creating a structure of control before the meeting has even officially started. Okay, so let's look at how this physical signal so effectively hijacks the brains of other people. It's not magic, it's a brilliant exploitation of our brain's built-in cognitive shortcuts. You know, the mental rules of thumb we use to make sense of the world quickly without burning too much energy. The first vulnerability it exploits is something called the primacy effect. Your posture is the very first piece of data that another person's brain receives about you. Before your resume, before you even introduce yourself, before that brilliant opening line you practiced, there's your posture. And that initial nonverbal data point creates a powerful first impression that colors how they see everything that comes after. If the first signal is powerful, everything you say is then interpreted through that lens. If the first signal is weak, well, you're fighting an uphill battle before you've even opened your mouth. The second shortcut is what's called the status heuristic. A heuristic is just a fancy word for a mental rule of thumb. Our brains are lazy by design. They don't want to do a full, detailed analysis of every person we meet. So instead, they look for simple cues to make a good enough judgment. And an expansive posture is one of the most powerful cues for status out there. The brain sees someone taking up space and makes a quick calculation. This person is probably important, competent, and in charge. It's a rapid-fire, automatic assessment of authority. So the crucial point here is that these two biases work together to create a powerful halo effect. That initial data point of a dominant stance, thanks to the primacy effect, triggers a positive assumption of competence because of the status heuristic. Your physical power gets translated into assumed expertise, and this creates an incredibly potent, self-fulfilling prophecy of influence, where people expect you to lead, and because of that, they're just more likely to follow your lead. Now, understanding the system is one thing. Mastering it, that's another. We've gone through the theory, and now we're moving to practical application. This isn't about being trapped by your wiring. It's about learning to consciously pilot a system that, up until now, has probably been running on autopilot. We're talking about actionable countermeasures to take back control. So here's the leverage point. This is all a habit loop, and just like any habit, it can be consciously interrupted and rewritten. You can intentionally step in and change your own nonverbal signaling to change both the biochemical and the social outcome. This is the strategic posture intervention. It's about going from being a passive participant in your own life to an active operator of your own nonverbal communication. And what's the required dose for this intervention? It's shockingly small. Research shows that it only takes 2 minutes. That's it. 2 minutes of intentional high-power posing is enough to create a measurable shift in your internal biochemistry, priming you for confidence and resilience before you walk into any high-stakes situation. So here's the protocol. It's simple, it's repeatable, and it's effective. Before a big meeting, a presentation, or a difficult conversation. Step 1, find a private space. A bathroom stall, an empty office, even an elevator works. Step 2, adopt a high-power pose. The classic Wonder Woman or Superman pose, hands on hips, feet apart, chin up, that one works perfectly. Step 3, hold it for 2 full minutes. And step 4, this is the most important part. Understand what you're doing. You are intentionally triggering that hormonal shift. You're turning on your confidence and turning down your stress. You're prepping your body for victory. Now, the other half of this strategy is defense. You have to eliminate the signals of submission. This is your tactical checklist. Watch out for fidgeting or restless hands. It just signals nervous energy and a lack of control. Be aware of self-touching, on the neck, face, or arms. These are self-soothing behaviors that broadcast discomfort and anxiety. Cut down on excessive, rapid nodding. It can make you look like you have a desperate need for approval instead of just simple agreement. And pay attention to your language. Get rid of tentative phrases like, I just think, or this might be a silly idea. And finally, be conscious of physically making yourself smaller, like hunching your shoulders or crossing your legs tightly. These are basically leaks in your armor. And finally, here's an advanced tactic for when you're in the leadership position. You don't always want to project pure dominance, right? That can create a threat and just shut people down. So to build rapport and trust, you can use mirroring. This just means subtly and naturally matching the posture and body language of the person you're speaking with. It's an ethical way to signal, hey, I'm like you, which lowers their defensiveness and builds a bridge of influence instead of a wall of authority. It shows you can be both powerful and safe. Okay, we've deconstructed the system, we've analyzed the psychological drivers, and we've laid out a clear strategy for intervention. This brings us to the core strategic takeaway of this entire explanation, the one principle that really governs this whole silent language of power and influence. This is the final insight. At the end of the day, it's not about being the loudest or the most aggressive or even the most correct. It is about quietly and confidently owning your physical space. Influence is a resource, and in the nonverbal world, it naturally flows to the person who demonstrates, through their expansive and relaxed posture, that they have a right to be there and that they're comfortable with the responsibility that comes with it. So the question is, how are you going to choose to own your space?